to the AI Campa Show's second season of Pokemon Universe.
Please subscribe and give like. Enjoy.
Okay, so let's get into it. Today we're doing a deep dive on, one of the most radical, calculated, and just frankly controversial villain groups in all of Pokemon history, Team Magma.
Welcome to this deep dive. And, when you look across the whole spectrum of antagonists in this universe, you've got your simple greedy types, the ones chasing immortality, Team Magma, they really stand out.
They really do.
They weren't driven by, chaos or your standard cartoon villainy. They were driven by a very dangerous environmental ideology.
Exactly. They genuinely believed they were saving the world.
Yeah.
But their method, this systematic, violent terraforming of the entire planet, was just absolutely terrifying. So our mission today is to really extract the core insights about their worldview, understand the flawed internal logic of their leader, Maxie, and figure out why that ultimate goal, expanding the landmass, was so destructive, even when they saw it as altruistic progress.
And to really get why their plan was so terrifying, you have to start with, the foundation of their ideology.
Right. Where did this even come from? Let's start with the setting, because context here is everything. Team Magma first showed up in the Hoenn region, specifically in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald.
What's unique about Hoenn is that it's defined by this intense geographical duality. You have the land and the sea, and they're locked in this constant, really visible interaction.
Yeah, you see it everywhere on the map.
And that duality, well, that's what created the problem as Team Magma saw it. They came from this conviction that the world had way too much water and dangerously little land. Look at the game map. Hoenn is just riddled with islands, shipping roads, vast oceans.
So for them, the problem was this imbalance. They thought it was preventing humanity from really thriving.
Exactly. Land, for them, represented civilization, infrastructure, building, and, critically, industrial progress.
And water represented what? Stagnation?
Stagnation limits the untamed wild. That's the core motivation. For Team Magma, land meant progress, and more land meant exponential space for human civilization to expand without any restraint.
They genuinely thought they were just accelerating evolution in a way, just getting rid of nature's, restrictive chokehold?
That's a great way to put it. So they settle on their objective. Wake up Groudon, the legendary Pokemon of land.
But that single move, that focus on one primordial force, it just completely ignores the idea of natural balance, doesn't it? If the whole region is defined by land and sea, you can't just expand one without, dire consequences for the whole system.
That is the profound intellectual failure at the heart of their whole philosophy. The sources show over and over that the Hoenn ecosystem is this finely tuned machine. Destroying half of it doesn't create some new utopia.
No.
It creates instantaneous collapse. And that disregard for balance is driven directly by the mind at the top.
Maxie, he's at the heart of all this, and he's maybe one of the most intellectual but also deeply flawed villain leaders in the whole series. He's not some shouting lunatic.
No, not at all. That sets him miles apart from villains like, say, Giovanni, who's driven by ego or just a lust for power. Maxie is running an ideological experiment.
And that's the critical detail we have to focus on. Maxie is not insane.
Not in the slightest. He is calm, methodical, and genuinely convinced that his beliefs, his numerical analysis of the world's resources, are correct and morally justified.
That chillingly dangerous sanity is what makes him so frightening. He's analyzed the world, diagnosed the problem, and he's mathematically calculated the solution.
He saw himself as a necessary visionary.
Oh, totally. In his own mind, he was the only one with the courage to make these hard, systemic decisions that everyone else was too timid or too sentimental to even think about. We see quotes where he basically says, the status quo is stagnation.
And stagnation is the real enemy to him. From his rigid perspective, waking at Groudon wasn't an act of destruction. It was necessary evolution. He was willing to sacrifice the present for what he saw as a superior land-dominated future.
But wasn't that whole clinical approach, that reliance on data and logic, wasn't that inherently self-defeating? He thought he was being rational, but he was basing it all on a premise that was fundamentally irrational, the idea that he could control nature.
Absolutely. And that's the fatal flaw right there. His chosen tool is Groudon.
And Groudon is not a tool.
Not even close. You don't solve a math problem with a literal force of nature. Groudon isn't just a big Pokemon. It represents continents, tectonic plates, the raw, untamed force of the Earth itself. It's a primal entity of expansion and heat.
It's designed to create the world, not be managed by some guy in a red hoodie.
Right. And the sources detail exactly what happens when Groudon is woken up, even partially. You see immediate, intense droughts that just wither all the plant life.
Massive volcanic activity starts erupting across the region.
And the forceful expansion of land masses, violently pushing back the sea, draining lakes. It's chaos.
This is where their miscalculation becomes so tragic. Team Magma treated Groudon like a controlled mechanism, a device they could just activate and deploy.
They were so focused on the land they wanted to create that they completely ignored the destruction it would take to get there.
And the crucial lesson they failed to grasp, the one that's like inherent in all the lore about these legendary forces, is that you do not control a force of nature.
Never.
When you try to harness something that primal, it ultimately controls you. Maxie saw a powerful tool. Groudon saw a world to reshape according to its own will.
And that ambition immediately put them up against their diametric opposites, creating what is maybe the most philosophically compelling conflict in the entire lore.
We have to talk about Team Aqua. I mean, you can't talk about Team Magma without them. If Magma wanted to expand the land with Groudon,
Then Team Aqua wanted to expand the oceans using Kyogre, the legendary Pokemon of the sea.
it's this perfect, beautiful symmetry and a deeply tragic ideological clash, land versus sea.
Fire versus water, Groudon versus Kyogre. It's the ultimate environmental staring contest, isn't it?
It really is. And what's remarkable is that both teams operated under the exact same delusion. Both genuinely believed they were saving the planet, one for human expansion, the other for natural purity and ocean life. And yet both were equally willing to destroy the present ecosystem to get their own narrow utopia.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, this dual extremism, it's such a powerful metaphor for real-world ideological conflicts, when two opposing sides push too far.
The middle ground just collapses, the balance you need for stability is gone, and you get mutually assured destruction.
Exactly. It elevates the conflict so far beyond just two groups fighting over a MacGuffin. It's a study in how conviction, when it's unchecked by wisdom, just breeds catastrophe.
Because if either of them had actually succeeded, Hoenn would have just ceased to exist in any habitable form.
That's right. I mean, when Kyogre unleashes those torrential downpours and Magma unleashes extreme drought, the weather anomaly you see in Emerald proves it. These forces can't coexist under human direction. They're meant to balance each other, not serve as ideological weapons.
Yeah. And look, Team Magma wasn't just sitting around in a room theorizing about all this stuff. They were active, incredibly sophisticated in how they executed their plan.
That sophistication is what made them so dangerous, not just their raw power. They didn't go after random mystical energy. They targeted, established legitimate science. They stole technology from the Devon Corporation.
Right, the Devon scope, all that stuff.
Yep, essential equipment. But more critically, they went after the legendary orbs.
Talk about the orbs, because that detail is crucial. It wasn't just an artifact. It was the key.
It was the key to manipulating Groudon's primal power. The red orb was believed to be the tool to control Groudon, to force it into its primal reversion state. This shows Maxie's faith in technology and ancient knowledge combined.
He believed that humanity, through ingenuity and, stolen secrets, could become the master of nature.
And they had the operational precision to match that tech. They weren't just hanging out in a hideout. They launched targeted assaults.
They infiltrated and occupied all these key locations for their plan. The secret magma hideout inside a volcano.
The Weather Institute for Atmospheric Data and even the Moss Deep Space Center in some versions. They understood that their mission required control over not just the Pokémon, but all the systems around it.
Everything about them, from their uniforms symbolizing earth and heat to their cold language, it all just screamed, control!
An obsession with turning the unpredictable world into a predictable spreadsheet.
So when they finally succeed, even for a moment, what happens? What's the immediate, non-negotiable impact when Maxie's flawed vision becomes a reality?
When Groudon is unleashed, the consequences are immediate and catastrophic across all of Hoenn. You see extreme droughts that dry up key water sources, like the coastal routes.
Which means the swift collapse of marine and freshwater Pokémon habitats.
The expansion of land is violent. It causes earthquakes, unpredictable geographical shifts. The world doesn't become a better place for humans to thrive. It becomes instantly hostile and uninhabitable.
So that near apocalypse, that's the moment it all clicks for Maxie, right? The moment he finally sees the truth.
That his perfect, calculated dream was just fundamentally broken. He sees the world dying, not evolving. He finally understands that nature doesn't exist to serve ideology. even a well-intentioned one.
And this is what makes Maxie so unique, especially compared to villains who just want to conquer something.
Oh, absolutely. Unlike so many Pokemon villains who just disappear or get defeated and never learn, Maxie gets a powerful and pretty rare redemption arc.
This expansion of his character in the later games and remakes is so fascinating. Maxie doesn't just show remorse, he explicitly admits his mistake to the player.
Yeah, he acknowledges that his obsession with land created a new, far worse imbalance, and he consciously steps away from that extremist worldview.
That willingness to admit failure, to change course, it transforms Team Magma from just being antagonists into a really deep, powerful cautionary tale about dogmatism.
It tells you, the listener, that even the most carefully constructed logic can be catastrophically wrong if it ignores how interconnected the world really is.
Especially in Omega Ruby, his narrative there is so much more polished. He goes from being a simple bad guy to a genuinely tragic visionary.
A genius who really believed he was doing the right thing, only to be confronted by the devastating reality of his own hubris, and he's forced to take responsibility for it.
And the thematic meaning that Team Magma leaves behind is, it's huge. They represent environmental extremism, the danger of trying to force progress without any regard for the delicate systems already in place.
They illustrate the violent cost of ideological rigidity.
That's the core takeaway, isn't it? Progress without balance ultimately just becomes destruction. It's a lesson learned through mass environmental collapse, and the source material is very clear. Nature always responds violently when you push it to those extremes. Team Magma left a permanent mark on Pokemon storytelling. They proved that villain teams could be philosophical, ideological, and deeply complex.
Their story forces you to confront the complexities of good intentions gone terribly, terribly wrong.
So the synthesis we arrive at is this. Team Magma wasn't evil for the sake of being evil. They were simply and fundamentally wrong. And that unwavering, calculated ideology, rooted in that dangerous sanity we talked about, made them far more threatening than any traditional power-hungry villain.
It's a powerful reminder that the most frightening antagonists in any story, or even in history, are the ones who genuinely believe they are the heroes acting for the greater good.
Which kind of leaves us with this one big provocative question, doesn't it? The one their story really asks you to think about. Maxie's desire was to create a better world for humanity. But is it ever right to reshape the entire planet, irrevocably and violently, based on belief alone?
It makes you consider how often good intentions, when taken to an extreme, lead to catastrophic, irreversible ends.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the complex world of terraforming terror and the calculated hubris of Team Magma.